comfort, discomfort, and pacifiers. To borrow a phrase from the old Star Trek series, the prime directive of the limbic brain is to ensure our survival as a species. It does this by being programmed to make us secure by avoiding danger or discomfort and seeking safety or comfort whenever possible. It also allows us to remember experiences from our past encounters and build upon them. Thus far, we have seen how efficiently the limbic system helps us to deal with threats. The limbic brain, a brain that doesn't forget. The limbic brain is like a computer that receives and retains data from the outside world. In doing so, it compiles and maintains a record of negative events and experiences. A burned finger from a hot stove, an assault by a human or animal predator, or even hurtful comments, as well as pleasant encounters. Using this information, the limbic brain allows us to navigate a dangerous and often unforgiving world. For example, once the limbic system registers an animal as dangerous, that impression becomes embedded in our emotional memory, so that the next time we see that animal, we will react instantly. Likewise, if we run into the class bully, 20 years later, negative feelings of long ago will percolate to the surface once more, thanks to the limbic brain. The reason is it often it often is difficult to forget when someone has hurt us is because that experience registers in our or in the more primitive limbic system, which is the part of the brain designed not to reason but to react. I recently encountered an individual with whom I was never on the best of terms. I had been 4 years since I had last seen this person, yet my visceral limbic reactions were just as negative as they had been years ago. My brain was reminding me that this individual takes advantage of others, so it was warning me to stay away. This phenomenon is precisely what Gavin de Beeker was talking about in his insightful book, The Gift of Fear. Conversely, the limbic system also works efficiently to register and retain a record of positive events and experiences. Example satisfaction of basic needs, praise, and enjoyable interpersonal relationships. Thus, a friendly or familiar face will cause an immediate reaction, a sense of pleasure and well being, the feelings of euphoria. When we see an old friend or recognize a pleasant smell from childhood, occur because those encounters have been registered in the comfort zone of the memory bank associated with our limbic brain or with our limbic system. When we experience a sense of comfort, well being, the limbic brain leaks this information in the form of body language, congruent with our positive feelings. Observe someone resting in a hammock on a breezy day. His body reflects the high comfort being experienced by his brain. On the other hand, when we feel distressed, discomfort, the limbic brain expresses nonverbal behavior that mirrors our negative state of being. Just watch people at the airport when a flight is cancelled or delayed, their bodies say it all. Therefore, we want to learn to look more closely at the comfort and discomfort behaviors we see every day and use them to assess our feelings, thoughts, and intentions. In general, when the limbic brain is in a state of comfort, this mental and psychological well being is reflected in nonverbal displays of contentment and high confidence. When, however, the limbic brain is experiencing discomfort, the corresponding body language is characterized by behaviors emblematic of stress or low confidence. Knowledge of these behavioral markers or tells will help you determine what a person may be thinking or know to act or how to act or what to expect when dealing with other people in any social or work context. The importance of pacifying behaviors. Understanding how the limbic system's freeze, flight, and fight responses influence nonverbal behavior is only part of the equation. As you study nonverbal behavior, you will discover that whenever these or there is a limbic response, especially to a negative or threatening experience, it will be followed by what I call pacifying behaviors. These actions, often referred to in the literature as adapters, serve to calm, calm us down after we experience something unpleasant or downright nasty, as in its attempt to restore itself to normal conditions. The brain enlists the body to provide confront, comforting, pacifying behaviors, since these are outward signals that can be read in real time. We can observe and decode them immediately and in context. Pacifying is not unique to our species. For example, cats and dogs lick themselves and each other to pacify. Humans engage in much more diverse pacification behaviors. Some are very obvious, while others are much more subtle. Most people would readily think of a child's thumb sucking when asked to identify a pacifying behavior, but do not realize that after we outgrow that comfort display, we adopt more discreet and socially acceptable ways to satisfy the need to calm ourselves. Example, chew and gum, biting pencils. Most people don't notice the more subtle pacifying behaviors or are unaware of their significance in revealing a person's thoughts and feelings. That is unfortunate. To be successful at reading nonverbal behavior, learning to recognize and decode human pacifiers is absolutely critical. Why? Because pacifying behaviors reveal so much about a person's current state of mind, and they do so with unnecessary or an accuracy. I look for pacifying behaviors in people to tell me when they are not at ease or when they are reacting negatively to something I have done or said. In an interview situation, such a display might be in response to a specific question or comment. Behaviors that signal discomfort, example, leaning away, a frown, and crossed or tense arms, are usually followed by the brain enlisting the hands to pacify. I look for these behaviors to confirm that is going on or what is going on in the mind of the person with who with whom I'm dealing, captured in the nick of time. Neck touching and or stroking is one of the most significant and frequent pacifying behaviors we use in responding to stress. When women pacify using the neck, they often do so by covering or touching their suprasternal notch with their hand. The suprasternal notch is the hollow area between the Adam's apple and the breastbone that is sometimes referred to as the neck dimple. When a woman touches the part of her neck and or covers it with her hand, it is typically because she feels distressed, threatened, uncomfortable, insecure, or fearful. This is a relatively significant behavioral clue that can be used to detect, among other things, the discomfort experienced when a person is lying or concealing important information. I once worked on an investigation where we thought an armed and dangerous fugitive might be hiding out at his mother's home. Another agent and I went to the woman's house, and when we knocked at the door, she agreed to let us in. We showed our identification and began asking her a series of questions. When I inquired, "Is your son in the house?" she put her hand on her suprasternal notch and said, "No, he's not." I noted her behavior, and we continued with our questioning. After a few minutes, I asked, "Is it possible that while you were at work, your son could have sneaked into the house?" Once again, she put her hand up to her neck, dimple, and replied, "No, I'd know that." I was now confident that her son was in the house because the only time she moved her hand to her neck was when I suggested that possibility. To make absolutely sure my assumption was correct, we continued to speak with the woman until, as we prepared to leave, I made one last inquiry just so I can finalize my records. "You're positive he's not in the house, right?" For a third time, her hand went to her neck as she affirmed her earlier answer. I was now certain the woman was lying. I asked for permission to search the house. I asked for permission to search the house, and sure enough, her son was hiding in a closet under some blankets. She was lucky she was not charged with obstruction of justice. Her discomfort is lying to the police about her fugitive son caused her limbic system to generate a pacifying behavior that tipped her hand and gave her away. As a specific example, if every time I ask a subject, "Do you know Mr. Hillman?" he responds, "No," but then immediately touches his neck or mouth, I know he is pacifying to that specific question. I don't know if he is lying because deception is notoriously difficult to detect, but I do know that he is bothered by the inquiry so much so that he has to pacify himself after he hears it. This will prompt me to probe further into this area of inquiry. Pacifying behaviors are important for an investigator to note since sometimes they help uncover a lie or a hidden information. I find pacifying behaviors a greater significance and reliability than trying to establish veracity. They help to identify what specific subjects trouble or distress a person. Knowing these can often lead to events and information previously hidden that might give us new insights. Hope you liked listening to this video and click on the next one on the screen if you'd like more content like this, and see you next time.